I felt a touch of the shadow of the pain handed down to you by the church's actions and behaviours. I can't say that I felt the pain, that was in my notes, but how can one? Only those who were there, who lived through it, know the pain. Which is why I say I felt a touch of the shadow of that pain.
Joining me now is CBC's Brian Enius, who followed the Archbishop throughout the weekend. Brian, let's take a closer look at the apology. How did it play out?
Well, Sam, as we just saw, Reverend Justin Welby offered two different apologies. This is the first time the Church of England has offered an apology. Two previous apologies came from the Anglican Church of Canada in some form. In James Smith Cree Nation on Saturday, the Archbishop apologized for what he called the terrible crimes the Anglican Church allowed at residential schools in Canada. In Prince Albert on Sunday, he apologized for the broken relationship between the Church of England and Indigenous people in Canada.
We did not fulfill our historic commitment, and it was a commitment and promise, to be an advocate, ally, and relative, member of the family, for you.
Brian, what moment sticks out to you from this weekend?
For me, it's the fact that Welby really took the time to listen to residential school survivors. In James Smith, a number of survivors took the podium and shared their stories while he sat next to them and listened intently. In Prince Albert, it was a very similar event, but Welby sat in the crowd rather than with survivors. Survivors told me that they appreciated that the Archbishop made the trip and really felt that he engaged with them.
The Anglican Church is a good thing for them to come and say I'm sorry too. You know, it makes me feel good and makes hopefully our community members feel good and accept the apology. And I know that I can accept that within myself and carry on with my life.
So, all that said, what's the next step, Brian?
Archbishop promised to release any residential school records in the church's archives in England. He also promised to work with representatives from Canada and the Roman Catholic Church to see how the church can address the doctrine of discovery. That's the historical framework that gave colonizing powers the supposed right to claim land in continents outside of their own. But Welby did not commit to more financial compensation for survivors.
As with what we're thinking about on slavery, what restitution and healing looks like. Can you do it with people carefully to make sure it's not a one-off virtue signaling splash, which then makes no long-term difference?
Sam, the Archbishop didn't reject the idea. He just said that the church needs to find the right approach.
Brian, thank you so much for your work on this.
Thank you.